Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program on WJEJ, a partnership with Washington County Public Schools, the third Thursday of the month at this time as we talk about public education here in Washington County. I'm Will Kaufman from the Public Information Office. My guest today for this month's show, Dr. Clayton Wilcox, our Superintendent of Schools. Our show is brought to you by Blackboard on a mission to reimagine education. Sir, welcome back.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you. Certainly good news here lately. We've had another blue ribbon school to announce and celebrate and report, Smithsburg High School. How do those kinds of things play? I mean, how does that feel?
Well, I think it's huge for the school district. It's also huge, I think, for the Smithsburg community. We were notified recently that Smithsburg was the only high school in the state that achieved blue ribbon status. It was one of 6 schools recognized in the state. The principal at that school has done a marvelous job, but I think even his predecessor did a nice job in taking a really great faculty and helping to focus that energy and really do great things on behalf of the kids and the community. So,
and blue ribbon school status is not about box tops, it's not about popular voting or anything like that. It's a pretty rigorous set of standards that goes into that.
Yeah, what's interesting, I every once in a while you look at social media, and I looked, and some guy said, well, this was just kind of a self-aggrandizement movement. Well, no, you don't nominate yourself. You are actually selected by an impartial jury of folks who are reviewing data at the state. They're looking at graduation rates. They're looking at student achievement. They're looking at closing performance gaps between, for example, the free and or reduced price lunch students versus the students who aren't so economically challenged. They're taking a look at different subgroups of populations. How are the Latino students doing? How are the African American students doing relative to the majority population? So these things are not arbitrary. They're not applied for. We were selected, and I think that's a great thing. I think what's really powerful is that we've had 2 high schools in the past 3 years that have been selected as blue ribbon schools, which I think says to the larger community we're doing pretty well on a number of measures.
When you look across the school system, assess performance. Throw out the numbers a little bit and just your assessment of Washington County Public Schools in total.
Well, I think we're a good school district, and I think we're getting better. I think parents who have their kids here can be assured that each and every day they're going to have a quality teacher who is spending time in front of their young people. The teacher is going to be talking about things that are important to learn, and they're going to be providing experiences where kids can take that important to learn and expand upon it and grow upon it. So I'm very pleased right now. The other day I had an opportunity to visit with parents at South High, and in that, certainly there are some questions about some of the things that we do. But I would say that on balance, again, we're a very good school district and getting better each and every day.
Biggest challenges these days?
Well, I think the performance gaps that I alluded to earlier, quite honestly, we have a number of kids that, for whatever reason, aren't engaged in their education. They don't perhaps demonstrate the care that we would hope that kids would, demonstrate. But, I think, Will, from the perspective that I have as superintendent, that's my responsibility to engage them, to find teachers who will find the ways to engage those kids who aren't so easily engaged. And that's hard. Really, that's the changing nature of teaching. When you and I went to school, our parents said, you are going to sit down and you are going to sit straight and you are not going to talk back to the teacher. I think a lot of kids don't come from those kinds of backgrounds today. So, teachers have a tougher role than they've ever had before. And quite honestly, the changing curriculum has I think, affected a lot of teachers.
If you want to join in on the discussion, we'll do the phone number, and the line is always open for you, 301-739-2323 here at WJEJ, 739-2323 if you want to talk with Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Clayton Wilcox. Are we looking for different kinds of teachers then these days?
Well, I don't necessarily think we're looking for different kinds of teachers. I think we've always looked for teachers who knew their subject matter well, teachers who like kids. I think we've always looked for that. But I think if there is a difference today, it's the demand that a teacher has to be more of a kid magnet, that they can't just come to school like they once did and deliver the subject matter, even no matter how much they like the kids. Today, I think kids are saying more and more, demonstrate to me Mr. or Mrs. Teacher, that you care about me personally before I'm going to invest in your subject area. And that's really a changed dynamic, but I don't think it requires a different kind of person. It just perhaps requires maybe a different approach to the classroom.
Although delivering the product each day on the part of the teacher is as challenging as ever, it seems. I mean, Common Core it's really challenging, I think.
Oh, I think it is. I think particularly when you look at some of the courses that we're delivering. I mean, there are some who will say, well, algebra has always been algebra. Well, yes, it has, but the demand to have the teacher teach it in an applied manner is different. I think we lived in a society where people learned algebra well, and they would go make the applications on their own in their choice of career or world of work. Today, early on, teachers are having to teach kids the application skills because that's what's being measured on some of the assessments. So they're not only teaching the subject, but they're teaching the application in the same time frame because our model really hasn't changed for delivery.
Is our challenge a big one in finding, because we've set ourselves up to present all kinds of opportunities and options, plenty of advanced learning, plenty of advanced course level work. How much harder is it for us to find the quality teacher to deliver advanced courses like that?
Well, I don't want to, my poor human resources team is probably sitting back listening to this because it's kind of a command performance for them, but yes. I think, they would say that the challenge is hard, and it's harder than it's ever been before. But again, I want to go back to the fact that what we're really looking for when we look for teachers are people who have great knowledge of their subject area. We want to make sure that perhaps they've had some other world of work experience. So that really says that we take a look at not only their resume, but at the vita and what kids have done along the way towards college graduation. We hope that they've worked. We hope that they've had internships or externships. And it'd be great if some of those things were beyond student teaching. For example, if someone went to school to be a teacher in the area of one of the areas of mathematics or sciences, but had done an internship at Volvo, they would stand out very high in our selection processes. So I think it's harder to find the right blend of people, but at the same time, we're looking for the same things. We're looking for people who know their subject matter well, as I've said. We're looking for people who like kids, and we're looking for people who bring kind of a different perspective to the classroom.
I found that a fascinating discussion the other day at the most recent Board of Education meeting about that line between the straight ahead teacher, and folks who you may pull from whatever the source may be, folks who are expert in their field, who may bring that kind of value into the classroom. What are some of the fine points of having a teaching staff that may come from different sources, as opposed to just the traditional teacher who has all the accreditation? I mean, how tricky is that?
Well, I think it's tricky, but I think it would enrich us as a school system to have people who had been in the world of work, who really understood, for example, the math behind you teaching the economy, a course on economics. Somebody who had been in the stock market, or somebody who had been a purveyor of some goods and services might really understand how to teach those things in a way that comes alive in the classroom. The challenge that you have is the person may know their subject area well in terms of the world of work, but can they convey it to someone? So you've got to find that balance, because that's a big part of the traditional teaching experience through the college or university, is having these internship spots where you go and teach the curriculum and you work in a school under the tutelage of a master teacher or a teacher who's a veteran who helps you. These people from careers might not have that. So, the conversation that we were having in particular involved one of our board members, and Dr. Hardings, I think many people know in this community. He is a physicist. He runs his own business now in town, but he got his undergraduate degree from Notre Dame in the sciences. He went on and got his degree in physics from Yale University. Not a bad school. One might argue that Justin has probably a greater background than just about anybody that we could bring from a traditional college of education. Yet there are some who say he shouldn't be in the classroom. Now, I would say I think he has a great set of skills to bring to the classroom. Deep subject area orientation. You take a look at his career. He was an officer in the United States Army where he led men and taught men. He's been a lecturer around the world in different conferences and convocations. Yeah, I think he could do it. And I think there are others in this community maybe who didn't go to Yale, but who have that same set of outside experiences that we could bring in and make kids' lives richer.
You and I had this conversation some time ago in the context of Justin and his areas of expertise about you and I had designs on being physicists years ago. We just decided to take different directions.
You misunderstood me. I said physical education.
Okay, that scuttles all of that.
That scuttles all of that.
Yeah, that's funny.
But it is interesting because, I know people who have done different things. I myself, I spent time away from education, was in the private sector, and I think it made me a better superintendent having those experiences in the private sector. So, I think what we have to do is enlarge our vision for who can teach young people. We've got to make sure that, they're worthy of being in front of our kids. But once we establish that, I think we make the school system a richer place by bringing a broad variety of people to teach our kids.
Dr. Clayton Wilcox is my guest on Lunchtime Live. Today's show is sponsored by Blackboard on a mission to reimagine education. You're certainly welcome to call us with a question or a particular topic you'd like us to discuss on the show today. In the meantime, we deliver plenty of opportunities in various ways now. Academies, for instance. Talk about the Public Service Academy, which is getting increased focus.
We're going to establish a new Public Service Academy. It will have a component to it for police and the development of young officers. We'll have a component in it for fire and safety, fire rescue, if you will. And we're looking at a third component, perhaps around Homeland Security or perhaps dispatch. All jobs with great dignity, all jobs with great need for young people. So we'll have an academy around all of that. In addition to that, we have the traditional programs that people have come to know at Washington County Technical High School, like cosmetology, hospitality. But we also have things there like computer graphics design, computer animation. We have a whole host of other classes that we offer there, and I guess the way to think about it would be they are almost majors within a traditional high school education. We're sure the kids are going to learn great math skills and science skills, English language arts skills, but they're also going to have a strand of courses, for example, in carpentry, advanced carpentry, introductory electronics, introductory electrical installation and repair. So lots of opportunities for kids today in the public schools.
So the concept would be the same in the case of fill-in-the-blank kind of academy. So Public Service Academy, those kids are going to be getting regular coursework.
Absolutely.
Plus that specific focus then.
Right. And that's that place, Will, where, we will teach a kid, for example, an algebra class, but it's very important that we have the applied algebra so that the young person knows, here's why I'm learning this. And the example that I use a lot is if you're going to teach someone the Pythagorean theorem, a carpenter uses that almost every day, particularly a carpenter who's going to build a set of stairs. They have to know the Pythagorean theorem. They may call it something else. They may call it the A plus B plus C theory. That they may just say, hey, I'm going to figure out something using a triangle. Well, you know what? At the back of that is the algebraic concept that's expressed in that's expressed.
Where do we find the personnel to actually teach the specific focus? For instance, if we're directing kids toward a Homeland Security, minor, major, however you want to describe it, where does that curriculum come from for that part of that kid's education?
A lot of that curriculum has already been developed, and it's out there at other other school districts, whether it may be a college or a university setting. But in our case, for example, for Homeland Security, we really went and found somebody who had worked in the Homeland Security industry. She had great military experience as well, and we brought her here to work with our kids. She had spent a great deal of her time preparing young officers in the Division of Homeland Security, and now we have her here. When you look at our police and fire science programs, we look to our local police departments to find folks, and they will either provide us officers who are currently serving or perhaps recently retired officers to help deliver that.
I think those at least local law enforcement agencies, have a certain educational bent anyway. I mean, they're out in the community. They're either in the schools or out in the community with agencies, departments, community groups. So it's certainly not a foreign concept for them.
Not at all.
To move into an educational setting in whatever way?
Well, we've been really blessed here in Washington County. I mean, Sheriff Mullendore, Chief Harmon, just really great law enforcement people who do care about our kids, care about our community. And they actually reach out to us with program opportunities. We're not able to say yes all the time, but when we are, we really do something magical for kids.
How do we get students into a program, into a brand new program? How is that going to work for those kids?
Well, what we've started is kind of a series of open houses where we're inviting people to come in, talk, see the facilities. We're pretty excited about the potential numbers of kids. Kids are saying, hey, I'm interested. When you actually open the academy, I want to come see it. So I think we're just days away, really, from letting people actually tour the facility and make that decision.
I know across the building at Tech High, their numbers have been up for a number of years, every year. So the demand is certainly there for very specific programs, to send those kids off to higher education and then into the world of work with a specific set of skills. So this is not unlike that.
One of the interesting things is that we have a significant number of applicants to programs that are at Washington County Technical High School, but we only have so much capacity. An example would be our biomedical program down there that's led by Sally Irwin and others. We can't accept every kid who applies. So one of the things that we're doing right now is taking programs and trying to find other homes for them to create openings for programs like biomedical science to grow at Washington County Technical High School. So this idea of boutique learning that people are hearing about, this downtown academic hub that people are hearing about, all these things are tied together. And for those people who are out in the audience today who are listening and saying, well, that's all good and fine, but I don't want to spend more money, I will tell you that what we're hoping to do is actually reduce the tax burden on folks by deferring the building of a comprehensive high school through some of these boutique or smaller learning environments for kids. So I think this is a win-win for our community. It's truly a win for kids who are engaged, for some of these kids who are, for example, in our STEM academy over on the Washington County at Hagerstown Community College. For those parents, they're avoiding the paying of tuition for perhaps the freshman and sophomore year at the University of Maryland or some other Regents institution. For a number of parents, these kids are not going to be just returning home after high school because they're going to be a career in law enforcement or a career in police or fire science. So,
if you're just joining us, Dr. Clayton Wilcox, Superintendent of Washington County Public Schools, our guest on Lunchtime Live. We're here on WJEJ the third Thursday each month. This month's show is sponsored by Blackboard on a mission to reimagine education. I think technology, as you and I have talked almost every time you've been here, is a real advantage in delivering our product again in so many varied ways, and it's also potentially, as we look ahead, a cost savings too, where we can deliver what we do on the day-to-day in an even more efficient fashion.
I think that's absolutely right. It's interesting today as we record this, down at the CES building where our administrative functions are held, we have schools that are interviewing to become Vanguard schools. And what a Vanguard school means to us is that they're going to be a school that's going to immerse their young people and their teaching staff in technology, using whether it's sophisticated computer technology or some other kind of shared technologies to advance the learning in their school. We had 18 schools who said they would like to be one of the 8 Vanguard schools. So we have a pretty robust competition going on right now where people are telling us, here's why we should be selected. I think that creates kind of a healthy churn within the district. It's been interesting that some schools actually brought kids to this competition. Others brought great video stuff. Others just came and said, I didn't bring any technology. I just want to tell you all the great things that we're doing and how it can be enhanced by applying technology to the instruction, by applying a technology to the student's ability to extend their learning.
Because resources aren't endless, is there any equity issue across an entire county where one set of schools, one segment of all of our schools is ahead of the other segment? does that create any hazard?
Well, I think we do have some equity issues right now, but part of having this tech plan is to eliminate those things. You know, in the 4 years that I've now been in the school district, one of the things that we've tried to do is kind of promote the use of technology. But we've adopted really a philosophy of kind of scratch where it itches, because we wanted people who wanted the technology, who we knew would use it, to be the places where we invested. But what we found is there are so many of those spots right now that it's time to make a more holistic view of how we apply technology. So without throwing anything away, we're going to now kind of make sure that everybody else has access to the same technology. We'll start this year with a group of 8 Vanguard schools. Next year we'll double or perhaps triple that number. In 3 years, all of our 46 campuses, every student on every campus will have access to the right technology when they need it.
Is that driven by the system administration? Is that driven by the schools? Is it driven by the parents, the community? Where's the impetus coming? Where's the push coming from?
Well, I think a little bit from all of those places, Will. I mean, there are parents who are saying to us every day, my son or daughter are growing up in a world that's more technologically advanced than we could have imagined, and we can't even really envision what that's going to look like 10 years, 5 years down the road. So parents are asking. Teachers are asking as well, how do you help me extend what I'm trying to do each and every day? I have administrators who are coming to me and saying, you know what, I could do so much more if. And then, of course, you know, myself, I've been recently recognized for being an innovator in technology. And I only say that to say this, is that that's an interest of mine. It's a passion. And so I'm looking at other school districts and how they are doing great things on behalf of their kids, and then I'm trying to bring those things and make principals and others aware of, here's an even deeper way to go with that. So,
you know, does that change how we decide on building leadership, on principals and assistant principals, folks who can lead in a more tech-savvy environment these days than ever before?
It does, Will. I mean, you know, there was a day when somebody could say, well, you know, technically, I don't do that. You know, and right. People did. I mean, people did.
And I'm sure they still do.
But they don't say it to me.
No, that's right.
Not anymore. You have to embrace the technology. You have to embrace that people are going to learn differently, and the technology gives you a way to enable all the learners to learn in a way that works for them.
I know this sounds like a strange question. Is it possible to get too far ahead of the community, where you know the kids in our school buildings are the leaders in technology, and then those, in simple terms, those kids go home to an environment where it's not a technology environment?
I think that is possible, Will, but we've thought a lot about that. One of the things that we've done is we've worked with Antietam Cable to provide low-cost internet to people in the community. I believe that Brian and the team over there are offering $10 internet service to people who have not been customers before. I mentioned that each kid's going to have a device that's appropriate to their age and their stage in learning, and so all these will be Wi-Fi enabled devices, so kids will be able to go home and use the technology. If mom or dad can't do $10, there's the public library that has free Wi-Fi. Right. There are a number of other places. All of our campuses are hotspots, so I think we can do things to help young people and not get too far ahead of the community. But quite honestly, you know, I really think that it's our obligation to show kids a bigger picture, something that's perhaps a little brighter than what their circumstance is. I would hate to think that somebody here wouldn't have the opportunity to engage in a 21st century economy or a world of arts and the appreciation that comes from being connected globally. So we're going to make that opportunity available to kids.
How often do we revisit the issue of our kids going into higher education settings and how prepared they are? Who do we talk with, either locally or beyond locally, within the region or beyond, so that we know that the direction we're setting these kids in is at least setting them up for success?
Well, I would hope that we're having those kind of conversations every day. I mean, somebody in the organization ought to be having those conversations. I know, you know, my leadership team, well, we spend hours every week talking together, sometimes formally, other times informally. I know the principals are having these conversations with business leaders and others in the community. You know, it's interesting because someone asked me the other day, to help them define the jobs of the 21st century. And they said, well, just look out 10 years. And I said, I can't do that.
Right.
I can tell you that I think that, there are going to be a significant number of jobs that are in a service orientation, but what that job is, I don't really know. Do I think that there are going to be people like you and I sitting around talking on microphones in the future? No, but I know people are going to sit around and talk. I just don't know how that's going to work. But I think that if kids read well, and they become sophisticated consumers of what they read, regardless of what medium they read it in, whether they read it in a traditional newspaper or whether they read it on the internet. If they're a sophisticated consumer, I think that's good for all of us. That's a skill they have to have. I think kids have to be able to write well, because if you can't take your thought and put it to paper so somebody else can see it, or so that you can be prepared to deliver it orally, I think that's difficult. So helping kids to do those things. I think we have to teach kids to be thoughtful in terms of inquiry, so that it demands great understanding in the sciences and the maths. And I truthfully think that we will be a very poor society if we don't encourage kids to sing, dance, and draw. So the arts are important to us as well.
One quick question near the end of the, maybe more than one quick question with that prompt. We have an instance every now and then, whether it's a situation similar to the way we do things in school buildings and in public education, no matter where it is around the globe, related to school safety and security, and the need to reassure the community, show the community that these students and staff and anybody who's in our buildings and in our facilities are in a safe, vibrant environment. Do you feel good that we're doing what we can to ensure that that's the case?
I think we are doing a lot of things. We have enhanced security features at all of our schools, whether it be security-based vestibules, whether it be mag locks on all of the doors so people can't just enter our facilities. We have camera systems in all of our buildings. We have SROs, school resource officers, in our high schools, and they also spend time in our middle schools. We've talked with the sheriff's office and the police department about what their cycle times look like, how far are they at any one time from one of our schools. We talk about a lot of things like that. We talk to our own staff about what to do in emergencies. We have all kinds of coded procedures. But, we're still just one deranged person away from having something really bad happen. And so, use opportunities like this to say to people, if you have a relative or family member who you're unsure of, or who makes a threatening or disparaging comment about the school system, let somebody know so that we can intervene before it's too late. The great thing is we listen to kids' social media a little bit around our schools, and we're seeing some instances of bullying and stuff, and we're able to sit down on that. But I think, one of the other things that we're seeing now is that when kids suspect that another kid wants to do harm to either a group of kids or some of their friends, they speak up. They come to us and say, you know what, you should go talk to Billy. You should go talk to Barbara, because there's something not quite right. I think, all of this tragedy that we've had has really kind of opened the eyes of a lot of people within our district.
Yeah, and I really think it's refreshing, for lack of a better term, that at all levels of the school system, whether it's from the students originating something like that, I think staff members at all levels, whether it's in the cafeteria, in the classroom, wherever it is, crossing guards, all of those, everybody can make a contribution just by keeping eyes and ears open, whether it's a parent, whether it's a community member. Because that's the secret for the most part. You're never going to stop the potential of just random violence, for instance. But making the community aware and having folks being able to step up without a second thought.
Yeah. I used to work in New York City, and I would take the subway, and one thing that always struck me was the saying, see something, say something. And I think that's true here today. If somebody sees something that looks suspicious, call us, let us know, call the police, call somebody. Don't just say, I think I saw. We'd rather deal with 100 false threats than one disaster.
Yeah. What do you look for? We're, give or take, halfway through the school year, at least this holiday break, this winter break, gives us that pause at this time of the season. What do you look for into the new year, into 2015?
I think you're going to see continued growth in the school system in terms of our academic success. I think you're going to see a great struggle with us in terms of budget this year. Our enrollment has dropped for the first time in 14 years. When you take a look at that being down 200 kids, that's a significant hit to our budgets. Whether or not the local commissioners continue to support us in the way they always have is still a bit up in the air. We're given the new election. When you look at the structural deficit downstate in Annapolis, that could play out poorly for us, particularly with this decline in enrollment. So I think you're going to see a school system that's going to struggle with budget. We want to do well by our employees, but this might be a real lean, tough year for us. Beyond that, I think we're just going to keep trying to be a better school district. I think people are going to see the technology getting rolled out because we've been pretty good stewards of the money in the past. I think you're going to see the launch of several new programs that will mean a lot to this community. And I think you'll see the continued excellence out of like the Barbara Ingram Center, out of Washington County Technical High School. I think you're going to see a number of the local elementary schools step forward and do some really special things this year. So I'm looking forward to a great second half of the year.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate you coming on the show, as always.
Thanks. I appreciate all the phone calls you arranged to have come in.
Well, you're answering all the questions.
I'm almost out of breath.
You're covering all the ground.
I'm going to have to bring water next time.
Dr. Clayton Wilcox, Superintendent of Washington County Public Schools. This is our Lunchtime Live program, the third Thursday each month at this time, a partnership between Washington County Public Schools and WJEJ.